All right. So we're live. We're on.
We are online.
Okay. Be careful. Your mic is on the computer. So if you jostle it, it's going to be very loud on the microphone.
I'm just a loud person.
It's okay. It's all right. You are. I like loud people. I'm a loud person too. All right. Let's get to business because we only have really 30 minutes.
One shot wonder.
30 minutes to talk about a lot of stuff, really. So this is our first podcast, and we've decided to go with the name
Swim out of the box.
Swim Out of the Box.
Yes, that is our now.
So
that's
the first
podcast.
first point of business done. Swim Out of the Box.
Yes.
That's the name of the podcast. We're going to be talking about swimming. We're going to try to talk about swimming in about 30 minutes. We'll try to keep it to about 30 minutes. We'll try to be as thorough as possible. So maybe we'll do like to be continued episodes if we have to.
To be continued.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll try to make sure we do one once a week. We'll upload it on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to also upload video of the podcast on YouTube. So you'll be able to search for Swim Out of the Box
Yes.
on YouTube. And then we'll also link it to our website at theswimbox.com because this podcast is brought to you by
theswimbox.com.
So there you go. So the first topic we wanted to talk about, or really kind of breach, the idea came from you, Evan, was let's talk about the fundamentals that every swimmer needs to have. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, elite, right? But we can't talk about those in just 30 minutes. That would be like PhD level conversation. So
Exactly. And
what we're gonna do?
I don't have a PhD.
I don't either.
There we go.
I should try to get one for swimming, but I don't want to. I don't want to put the time into that.
Harvard, we're looking at you there.
Yeah. So what I want to do is basically break down the 5 things I believe every beginner or swimmer needs to have. So you could, if you are a very good swimmer already, you can kind of consider these and go, oh, do I need to work on that? So I think for the most important is body posture and position, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Then kicking, and we're really talking about freestyle right now, but in general, all the strokes. Kicking, rotation for freestyle. It would be for breaststroke and butterfly, what swimmers like to call undulation. And I always feel like it's a little bit too dramatic for what we're really looking for. We'll get there when we get there. And then breathing. Everyone's always weakest point is breathing. And then the recovery of the stroke. And that also ties into what's happening under the water. So we're going to say, like, it hurts me to say the pull, because I'm trying to get away from saying the pull.
How about just the propulsion phase?
The propulsion phase. You're brilliant.
Thank you.
I like it. I like it.
So
All right.
our 5 things: body posture,
Yep.
breathing. Maybe not in that order.
Not in that order.
So,
all right.
Body posture, breathing,
Kicking. Rotation.
and
Recovery.
Oh, so we have
6.
6. Okay, and the
Yeah,
propulsion
and the
phase.
propulsion
So
phase.
6 things that all swimmers should be doing properly.
Or they won't be swimming very well.
Exactly.
All right. Just 6 things all at once.
Right.
Good luck.
6 things all at once. Right.
So-
Good luck.
All right. Let's talk about body.
All right. Let's talk about body
The
posture.
simplest way to think about body posture.
The simplest way to think about body
is
posture
thinking of a straight
is
line between
thinking
the
of a
back
straight
someone's
line
head,
between the back of
through
someone's
their hips,
head,
through
their
their
hips,
legs, down
through
to
their
toes.
So
legs
spit ropes.
down to their toes.
Yes.
So
Got it.
spit ropes.
All right. So
Yes.
freestyle backstroke, you're swimming
Right.
on
So freestyle
a long
backstroke,
axis.
you're swimming on
Your spine
a long
essentially
axis.
is that long axis.
Your
right?
spine essentially is that long
The
axis.
problem
right?
with this, or the
The
difficulty
problem
with
with
this,
this,
is
or the difficulty
how-
with this is
especially
how,
adults
especially
are kind
adults,
of already set in a
are
posture
kind of already
that they
set
might
in
not
a
be able to
posture
manipulate very well.
that they might not
And
be
so
able to
can you
manipulate very well.
your posture
So
to be
can
as
you
straight as
manipulate your
possible?
posture to
Right.
be as straight as possible? Right.
So
So
I know when I was an age group coach,
when I was an
I would
age group
always
coach,
I would notice when a kid had a really straight
notice
spine.
when a kid
you
had a
kinda always
really
knew
straight spine.
that kid's
you kind
gonna
of
be a
always
good
knew
swimmer.
that kid's going to be a
Because
good
it's kind of
swimmer.
like you
Because
built
it's
to
kinda
swim.
Okay.
You're built to swim.
Obviously, you don't
Okay.
need a perfectly straight spine to swim.
Obviously,
and
you
nor
don't need a
should you have
perfectly straight spine to swim,
spine
and nor should you
for
have a
general
perfectly
health
straight spine
purposes.
for just general
Right.
health purposes. Yeah. Right?
But it's like, oh, that's easy
But
entry
it's
level.
like,
That's
oh,
kind of the
that's
idea
easy
we're looking
entry
for.
level. That's kind of the
you
idea we're looking for.
Need to
So
work
if
on your
you
posture.
Need to work on
Dry
your
land
posture.
is probably the best way to do it.
Dry land is probably the best way to do it.
I'm a big believer in
I'm a big
breathing to
believer
correct
in
posture.
breathing
So how
to
you
correct
breathe
posture.
determines your posture.
So how you
posture
breathe
determines how you
determines your
breathe.
posture. Your posture determines how you breathe.
I would say I'm more along the lines.
I would say I'm
school of
more along the
how
lines of the
you
school of how you
sit or how you
sit
carry
or
yourself
how
throughout
you
the day and how
carry
like,
yourself throughout the day
absolutely.
and how
Right.
works on posture
absolutely
throughout
works on
the
posture
entire life.
throughout the entire
I would say
life.
having
Right. I would say having
like biased postures.
like
I
biased
sit this way.
postures.
I
Yeah, sit
stand
this
a different
way.
way. When I walk,
stand
I
a
do
different
something
way.
different.
When I
I'm
walk,
doing
I do something
things,
different.
I have
When I'm
different
doing
posture, and
different
you
things,
should have a
I
variety
have different
of
posture,
postures.
and you should have a variety
I don't
of
know
postures. Right.
how to define
I
what
don't
good
know
posture is. I only
how
know
to
how to
define what good posture is. I only know how to
based on
define what good
situation.
posture is.
So that's
based
why
on
I'm
the
defining
situation.
good posture.
So that's why I'm
in
defining
swimming
good posture
as a straight spine.
swimming
from the back of your
as a
head
straight
through your
spine
toes.
from the back of your head through your toes.
So
right?
I don't think
So,
there's such thing as a good posture outside of
I
that.
don't think there's such thing
Sorry,
as a good
mom.
posture outside of that. Sorry, mom.
Stand up straight, stick your chest out is not necessarily
Stand up
good
straight,
posture.
stick your
Right.
chest out
You
is not
overdo
necessarily good posture.
posture
Right,
in
because
one
if you
thing, could
overdo
lead to
posture in one
complications
thing,
in
it
the
could
future.
lead to complications
Don't
in
look
the
at the
future.
camera. I saw you looking
Right.
at the camera.
Don't look at the camera.
I was
Don't
really
look at the camera.
Oh, okay.
I was really.
So
okay.
some common issues with posture in
some
swimming.
common issues with posture
I get
in
to see
swimming.
on a day-to-day basis.
I get to see
and
on a
I
day-to-day
get to
basis.
slam my head
and
against the wall on a
I get to
day-to-day
slam my
basis
head against the wall
is
on a day-to-day
droopy
basis.
spines.
Is
Okay.
droopy spines.
What constitutes
Okay.
a droop?
What
So
constitutes
usually from the
a droopy
mid back
So
to
usually
the lower
from the
back,
mid back
it's
to the
U-shaped.
lower back, it's a
Um,
U shape.
Yes.
Yes.
Double. yeah. It's like. Is that a mirror
yeah,
image?
it's like
Um,
is that a mirror image?
So sometimes people have
So
a lordosis that
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to really do much correction for, at least in the water. Because what you want to avoid doing is trying to tuck your pelvis too much, because then people with a lordosis, their legs will sink. So if you have that, if you don't know what lordosis is, it's a big curvature of your lower back.
Yeah. So
We'll show an image.
yeah, there will be an image.
Um, so beyond that, then like the mid back part, a lot of people overextend through their spine. They think that they're in a straight line, but they're really super erect and they're sticking their chest out and they're swimming what is described as swimming uphill, which also just causes a lot of drag. It also prevents mobility through the shoulder blades as well. So posture isn't just about being streamlined when you're swimming. It's also about giving mobility to your shoulders and your neck. All right. So for me, posture is a really, really important piece that can become very nuanced. At a beginner level, you know, we want people to have the easiest entry into swimming as possible. So it's not like you have to obsess about being in the straightest line possible. But you know, I would try to equate it for beginners. Longer surfboards are easier to surf on for a reason, right? You just have better buoyancy that way. So make sure you're nice and long. If you try to go too long, you actually start curving your back in the wrong direction. You start lifting your chest up and you start exposing it to sort of the oncoming water, causing drag.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, because you're supposed to, like, the way I've heard it is you're supposed to be swimming like you're envisioning yourself going through a very, very slim tube.
Yes.
So
Very common cue.
any kind of things that go beyond that, that's a lot of drag.
Yes. I like to paint the image of George Jetson going to work.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the Jetsons?
Like, maybe a couple episodes. So let's,
So he travels through a tube to get to work.
okay.
All right. There'll be an image. So, what's the smallest amount of resistance you can give the water to push back against you on? Incredibly important in swimming. Drag is always sort of our biggest concern. But in addition to that, making sure we have good mobility so that our limbs can function properly. Is really
So
important.
trying to find that nice happy medium of being long, but not too long.
Right. It's perception.
Perception, okay.
It's interesting to see. Like when we work with somebody, it's really interesting to see how you ask someone to go into a streamlined position while they stand on land, and
Mhm.
they typically will over exaggerate their streamline and lean back a little bit.
Mhm.
So it's just interesting.
Hyperextend that back.
Yeah, exactly. So
So for listeners, if you want to make sure you're being long, have someone else look at you or take a picture of you while you're in a streamlined position in the pool so you can see how your body position looks.
right, and you could practice this on land by just leaning against a wall.
Mhm.
Can you keep your spine flat against the wall with your heels against the wall? That's not easy.
Yeah.
Can you do it in a streamlined position? Right, that's even more difficult.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really good way to start practicing that. If you want to go real crazy, you can do that with a wall sit, right? So into basically a squat position with your back flat against the wall in a streamlined position. That takes some good mobility and flexibility to get there. So some other things that we need to be aware of as far as what affects posture. I had said before, your posture affects how you breathe, and breathing affects your posture. I was talking specifically on land,
Mhm.
but it's also very true in the water. So if you were sitting upright in a chair and you took in a really big breath and your chest expanded, so if you breathe in, you could already see I have bad posture now for swimming. Some people might consider this good posture for something else.
Still bad posture for just land because you're still hyperextending your back.
Right, exactly, right? So, when you take your breath in, right, you could be forcing yourself into bad posture. So, breathing, literally inhaling and exhaling affects your posture. So, knowing not to inhale too much to overinflate is important, but also because you have to keep that straight spine as you rotate. So rotation can affect your posture because of balance issues. So balance can affect your posture. Turning your head to get the breath during swimming. If you overturn your head, you'll start to also twist your spine, and that's going to affect your posture. If you, what I also see very commonly is if you lean your head back to breathe. So if you're taking a breath and you do this motion, look, I just hyperextended again, right? So there's no one like easy way to say this is how you have to fix your posture, because there's just so many different opportunities to mess it up. You have to be really cognitive of, are you doing some compensation for balance to help you rotate, to help you breathe, right? If you can break those things down, don't think about all of them all at once, otherwise your mind will explode and it's a mess. But if you can kind of break it down in one piece at a time, think about how your rotation might be affecting your posture or your balance is affecting your posture, then you can make those corrections.
Okay, so
Yes.
for the listeners, let's make this a little bit more easy because we're speaking of it in a way that as professionals oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So for the average listener, can you break down a list? I know I think the most common mistakes, like work on this first, work on this, just
So
a basic list.
Easiest way to work on your posture, and this is how you teach people to swim as well, is can you push off of a wall at a pool, establish a streamline, and establish a float, and glide for 3 to 5 seconds or until you need a breath, basically,
Okay.
with no kick, right? If you have to kick a little bit so your legs don't sink, fine. But we'll show anybody what their posture is, because you'll be able to feel sort of your hips are low. You'll feel yourself kind of lean to one side or the other side, so you'll have like a balance component to it, and then you'll start to kind of very easily start to understand what good posture should be. Another good little trick is if you want to experiment a little bit, you can take a kickboard and put it underneath your torso and just a little bit of your hips, hands by your side, and let that kickboard float you a little bit, because the kickboard is straight. So you should be trying to let that kickboard kind of lift you up. Can you keep your spine in that straight line?
Okay. So if we were to, I want to break this down even more.
Okay.
Like, okay, I'm swimming,
Uh-huh.
going in the pool. I'm doing, a 300. I'm bored. And I realized, what I could do? I could think about these 5 things for body posture and in my head while I'm swimming, make sure I'm doing that. For example, one could be, oh, am I looking ahead? Am I seeing where I'm going? Or am I looking down at the pool and I can't see where I'm going?
Right. What should it be?
Well, I mean, you should be looking down. You shouldn't
Yes.
be able to see where you're going.
Right. That's why there's a black line at the bottom of the pool.
Right, exactly.
This is why I have arguments with open water swimmers, because open water swimmers say, I look forward because I'm an open water swimmer. And I say, I don't care. You're slowing yourself down and you're making yourself work a lot harder. So yeah, I think looking down is a great cue.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
that's the first one. So if I was thinking going along, number 1 on this list, I'm looking forward, or I'm looking down, check, I've got number 1 down.
Right.
What would number 2 be?
Whew. I think it's hard to know if you have a curvature in your mid-back.
Okay.
So what I try to cue people on is if they have some idea of how close their bottom rib is to the top of their pelvis.
Okay.
Right? So the bigger curvature, the further away your ribs move from your
Okay.
pelvis. All right? That doesn't mean I want you to pike and put your pelvis close to your ribs.
Mm-hmm.
But is it sort of a natural position? Is it a comfortable position away? So you can kind of play around with that.
Okay, so number 2, do my abs feel really loose or really tight? Because they shouldn't be either. They should be right in the middle.
Right. And that is, by the way, a good summary for all swimming. It's neither one nor the other. It's right in the middle.
Exactly.
Right? You don't want too much tension. You don't want too much lax. You just need something in between. I think of it as rigidity, right?
Okay.
So can you be rigid or firm, but not tense? We don't want tension.
Right. Okay.
So the idea of squeezing your belly button into your spine is, in my opinion, passé and actually detrimental to people swimming, and should not be followed. I think that was a Pilates cue at first, maybe a yoga cue at first. I heard it in yoga.
From my background, it's used to trigger people to contract the transverse abdominis rather
Right.
than the rectus abdominis.
Right. And if you contract your transverse abdominis, you're shutting off a lot of the rest of your core.
Right.
That's supposed to be stabilizing at that point. And so it is impossible to maintain for very long because you're asking one muscle to control a big space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not very helpful in that way, but it's tension as well. So
Right.
now you're wasting energy trying to do this. So I try to use the breath. That's a little bit more complicated. We have a course online, foundational breathing method, that helps to understand how you can use your breath to control your posture. That is geared towards more advanced swimmers and really geared towards people that have a lordosis or some like back extenders that just won't turn off.
Yeah.
All right. But majority people should
Okay.
be okay.
So number 2, not too tight, not too loose.
Right.
Abs. All right. What's number 3?
Number 3, where's your butt? Is
Okay.
it below the surface by a lot? Is it above the surface by a lot? Because it shouldn't be either, right? It should be kind of just
You want
at
those
the
cheeks
surface.
just touching the surface of the water.
Crusting the surface.
Yes, cheeks cresting the surface
Right.
of the water.
Which actually goes back to point number 1. If you're looking down,
Mm-hmm.
the water should be maybe a half an inch above the back of your head.
Okay.
All right, so it's the sensation of swimming downhill. It's a very common cue that people use in swimming. That doesn't mean everyone knows what that means,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it is a common cue. So once you kind of experience, you know, oh, this is what it feels like to swim downhill. So if your head is about a half an inch below the surface, the back of your head is a half an inch below the surface, your hips should be fairly close to that as well, right? Because we're trying to make sure that it's a straight line.
Yep.
Then, if we kind of travel down the chain of the body and say, okay, well, what's next? Then your legs. That gets tricky, right? Because when you're swimming, you're kicking.
Oh, right.
And it's hard to know if your kick is too deep, if your kick is not deep enough. I want to see basically hamstrings fairly close to the surface
Mm-hmm.
and feet kind of tap dancing on the surface.
Okay, so number 4, feet Tap dancing on the forest.
Serious? You just had a
Surface.
phone call?
It's those telemarketers, man. They want me. I don't know why.
I'm gonna put my phone on Do Not Disturb now.
That'll be a new thing for the podcast.
Yeah.
Bonus points for anybody who knows what song that was.
That would be impressive. Alright. So, feet tap dancing on the surface.
Feet tap dancing on the surface. Number 4.
Right.
So, last but not least, what's number 5?
Oof.
I would say, so this is my personal preference. 5th, I know it's going to tap into that breathing, but how are you turning your head? Are you turning it way up, or are you turning it, inside and up? Or with the rotation?
Right.
Like,
Right.
what would be a good way to condense that into, 5 words?
Keep one goggle below the surface. How
All
many
right.
words was that?
Enough that was short enough that was good. So, 1,
Head position.
head position.
Look straight down.
Yep,
1
looking
inch
straight down.
or half an inch to an inch below the surface, depending on who you are.
Right. 2,
Oh, and I should also state, since we're talking about this, no turtlenecking.
no
Like,
turtlenecking.
Don't stick your chin down towards the surface of or the bottom of the pool.
And out. Up,
Right.
down, and out.
Right. So looking straight down, neck is straight. I like to
Mhm.
think about. Sometimes I'll use the cue. Try to use the muscles in the back of your neck to elongate your neck.
Okay.
Right. So looking down.
Looking down. 2, making sure your abs are not too tight or too loose.
So keeping your pelvis and your ribs at a neutral, reasonable
reasonable
distance away from each other.
mediation.
Yep.
3, cheeks should be just touching the surface.
That's butt cheeks.
Yes. Obviously. 4, tap dancing on the surface
Yep.
with your heels.
Yep.
And 5,
Where are you looking to breathe?
where are you looking to breathe? You should only have one goggle above the waterline.
Right.
Okay, so that's our 5 basic checklists for people to use while they're swimming to just kind of, let me do a body posture check. Sorry, I don't know why I mean. Okay.
So, I think it's smart while swimming to try one cue at a time,
Mhm.
maybe per set. Like, okay, I'm doing 850s. For these 850s, I'm just going to make sure I'm breathing properly
Right.
to make sure my posture is good. Or,
So don't do all 5 at once.
yeah, don't try to
Address
go.
them in order.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, and 5.
So play around with it, experiment with it. What we'll do on our website is, obviously we'll post some videos so we can show some of this stuff as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Trying to think what would be helpful. I think just videos would be really helpful
Yeah,
for this.
just videos of what we were specifically talking about to add like a visual
right.
cue. This is what we were talking
And,
about.
and we'll cut in some visual cues to the actual
Video
podcast
on YouTube.
video on YouTube.
What is our
But
YouTube,
I like the idea
account.
of supporting documents as well, where we're going to support some different maybe concepts where we show people gliding a little bit and breaths and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Sound good?
What's our YouTube account? So people know where to look.
We haven't made one yet for this,
Oh,
but you can just probably Google SwimBox YouTube and we'll put it on there.
yeah. It will be there.
Yeah. Do some work, Google something yourself, and just Google SwimBox, you'll find us.
We're online, guys.
Yeah, you don't need us to hand spoon food you everything. Like, come on.
21st century.
Do some work. It's not hard to Google. All right.
So that's where we'll be leaving it off today. We will be making our second podcast on
in a week from today, which is next Friday,
right, and it will
hopefully if I'm in
be
town, it will be about kicking.
kicking. All right. So this is Out of the Box Swimming, and we'll see you next week.
Have fun.